Thanks for staying tuned. If you're just joining in, it is the Morning Drive Saturday edition, and this is actually the newspaper analysis segment. But before we jump right into analyzing the newspapers, we have a government special announcement. The Edo State government hereby announces the postponement of the resumption of all public and private schools in Edo State, originally scheduled for Monday, 9th September 2024, until further notice. An official statement from the government has directed that schools remain closed due to the tension arising from the recent increase in fuel prices and the challenges faced by parents and guardians. The government urges parents, guardians, and caregivers to monitor the activities of their children and wards closely given the current situation and rising tension caused by the fuel price hike. Well, to this effect, quite a lot is taking place as regards this fuel hike issue. We will be discussing that in this newspaper analysis segment. But then, before we head down to the major issue as regards the fuel price hike, there are other issues that we would like to look at. We will be going down to the Saturday Tribune. On the Saturday Tribune, the front page of the Saturday Tribune, we have Kuka to Tinubu reverse petrol price. Nigerians are suffering. Kuka has just made a statement. And to analyze this particular, not just this particular news article, but then the newspapers for this morning, I have with me in the studio Dr. Emmanuel Ehariba. You're welcome to the studio, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Happy weekend to everybody.
Thank you so much. Kuka has finally spoken. At the time we were saying, what has happened? Kuka hasn't spoken in a long time. He has finally spoken. What is your take on this?
You know, there are people who are loud even when they are reticent. And there are also people like Kuka. People will ask, has Kuka spoken? And if he has spoken, what has he said? I think it belongs to that class. And I want to imagine that what Kuka has said, Bishop Hassan Kuka, is not new. Because I remember I interviewed him here in Benin. He was not a bishop then. It was, excuse me, it was just a reverend father who was in charge of the Catholic Secretariat. And that was even during the military. And he was loud in saying that there was some profligacy even at that time. But I wish we could roll back that tape to say that what he said then is even worse now. Okay? Nigerians are suffering. That's a direct message to the president. Nigerians truly are suffering. Let's face it. Which is that household in Nigeria now that is not suffering? Except perhaps for those who are in politics or highbrow positions. For the average Nigerian, everybody is feeling the pinch. All right? People cannot ride their cars anymore. People cannot feed their families the way they should. Transportation fares have gone through the roof. So there is a dilemma. And I believe that the president should listen, particularly to people like Kuka. It's not compromised. I mean, he's speaking from a position of strength, right? And what he's saying is what the Bishops' Conference, the Catholic Bishops' Conference has also said. He's just re-echoing what they have said. And you know, the Catholic bishops, they don't speak from both sides of the mouth. They say it the way it is because there's no compromise, okay? They just say it. They don't mind who talks is God, okay? And I want to thank Kuka, Bishop Kuka, for his message at this point in time. Because you see, even Dangote, whose fare we're expecting, well, so to speak, he has said that the federal government will be the one to fix the price of its own fuel. And we are seeing from some of the newspapers that the federal government is saying there's no going back. All right? In fact, the president has said that we need to go through this pain to be able to arrive at a certain end. But the question remains, must Nigerians continue to suffer like this? Okay? And Somebody jokingly said yesterday, maybe I should share this joke with the viewers, that even the dogs are feeling the pinch. There are no dogs outside anymore. Many of them have died because there's no dustbin where they can pick up crumbs. The dogs are all gone. How many dogs do you see on the streets now?
For quite
They
a
are
long
gone.
time. No.
Yes, they are gone out of hunger, let alone human beings. So that's the problem we are in this country. And I feel really sorry for many Nigerians. We are bearing the pains with calmness, as it were. But deep down, they are angry. And I think that is quite dangerous. Deep down, they are very angry. And when anger is bottled up like this, it's a sign that people might take the laws into their hands. We don't pray for that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we don't pray for that at all. But hunger is something that you cannot, it's not good to even weaponize it, all right? But it is something that we must tackle. There's food crisis, and the international community is aware. What I think the government should do is to stretch out its hand for help in this situation. Just as I expect, they will also stretch out their hands for security purposes. Right.
Well, talking about the government stretching out its hand for help, let us move over to the Saturday Vanguard, where we have quite a disturbing header there that says, why hardship may not end till 2027. This is coming from economy experts. They say suffering to continue beyond that unless, and then there is another writer to that effect, say economic recovery dependent on key factors. The hardship may not end till 2027. What's your take on this from economic experts?
Invariably, what that means is that we are going to bear this pain throughout this administration. Okay? The tenure of this administration ends in 2027. Okay? And we have not spent 2 years yet. That's a very disturbing news, really, coming from experts. And that also means that there are means and methods to change the situation. If government will listen, sure, they expressed a certain advice down the line inside the newspaper. But right now, I have said it over and over again, that if we must go over this problem, apparently we must reduce the price of fuel, because that's what controls everything. It's a mono economy that we are running in this country, and that's at the heart of the matter. Fuel. It affects households, it affects transportation, it affects medicine for people who are ailing, it affects everything. Because it is transport they use to bring goods and all of that into from the interior into the urban centers. Even in the villages, they are not faring better. So it is quite sad. It is quite sad, and unless government addresses it, I'm afraid they are right, nothing can happen between now and 2027.
Well, let's just leave this issue as regards worsening economic crisis for Nigeria. We're going to go to another issue that doesn't really concern the economy per se. But for those ardent viewers who actually watched our program yesterday, we discussed an issue as regards this 18-year, you must be 18, this 18-year limit to getting into the university. You must be at the age of 18 before you get into the university. We discussed that issue. And we have surprisingly, something coming from the federal government to that issue that we discussed yesterday. This is on the First newspaper, where we have federal government didn't stop under 18-year-old candidates from writing WASC NECO. Minister, sir, what's your take on this? You're not stopping them from writing WASC. Then what happens when they pass? They should stay at home. Is this good? Is this a welcome development?
Obviously that's what it means. If they are not 18 and they are writing WASC, you are allowed that, but you are not allowing them to go into the university. I mean, this is a huge contradiction. Let's face it. Children who are bright, who are brilliant, who are big. So, look, you see some 17-year-old children, you can't believe it. They are big, well-fed. They are brilliant, bright, brilliant. And yet you deprive them. That means they are going to stay a whole year for no fault of theirs. I told you yesterday, back in college in those days, at Edo College, I mean, I finished at 17. Yes, most of my classmates finished at 17. I mean, for the sake of repetition. But we also had people who were 18, 19, even 20 in our set. But the question to ask is, what has age got to do with it? Because there are older students in the university, in their early 20s, undergraduates, who also misbehave. I mean, that is true. The university authorities will tell you. They misbehave. They smoke. They do all sorts of things. They are in their 20s, 23, 24. They didn't start early. Whereas they get into the university and they begin to misbehave. That is on the question of age. So how do we determine who can behave properly and who will not? Because there are some children who are 18 who are properly brought up from their homes and they keep within limits. They keep within limits. They behave properly. They don't join groups. They don't join cult groups. They behave well. They don't. Some of them do not even behave their age. You think that they are adults. They are young because they have been brought up properly and they know why they're in the university. Whereas some will be 25 years old as undergraduates. Those are the ones who smoke marijuana and all sorts of things. Yeah, because they believe that they have liberty. In the university, they are old. They begin to think that they can take care of themselves. And they begin to have this proclivity of being bad influence to the younger ones. They do things that are completely out of sync with what university authorities think. So it's a dangerous move. Let us give our children a chance. If they are good enough, let them go into the university. I mentioned the case of China and a few other countries yesterday. Right from the primary school, they train them. In fact, they gear them towards national development. That is what I think we should be doing. When a young man graduates at the age of 20, 21, and in the last year, you begin to do this orientation, they are passing out of the university. Begin to tell them, the universities have a lot of job to do here. You begin to tell them that yes, we are going to the world now. This is a new orientation and gear their minds towards meaningful national development. In their final year, because they are going there, well, some of them even spend up to a year now before they go into the National Youth Service. But in the final year, you must begin to think of how they can integrate properly in the process of national development. Now let me tell you something, which is slightly allied to this. And that is that the universities have now thought it wise to make entrepreneurship studies a major course in the university. Why do they do that? Because they now realize that whether you are a pharmacist or whether you are an engineer and all that, you still need that background of business.
Exactly.
Entrepreneurship. Age does not matter in entrepreneurship. It doesn't. You can be a young man of 20, 21. You are more versatile than somebody who is 26, 27, or even 28. It's a kind of orientation that we are talking about. You know, and you are slowing people down unnecessarily. It's very archaic and retrogressive because the world is moving faster than we are doing. If you go to the US now, I told you yesterday that the US is very wary now. They think of China, even Russia. Russia, by the way, they have the most educated population in the whole world. Russia. Why? Because they gear their population towards national development very early. Not to talk of China now. China, of course, has taken over completely. Singapore, Taiwan. These are countries that know what they are doing. At 2021, people are already producing things in factories. They are graduates. Yes. They are producing things. They are young. That is where the brain works best. At that age. I hate to use the word tender. It's not tender. When a young man is 20, 21, he's grown up. He's grown up. Let me tell you, how old was Enahoro? The late Chief Enahoro, when he was the editor of Daily Times. How old was he? He was in his early 20s. When he even raised the voice for the independence of this country, how old was he? We must realize that there are young people who are gifted. I mentioned that yesterday. They are particularly gifted and we must give them a chance. Look, we keep talking about Gowon. Gowon was 32 when he became the president of this country. So age has nothing to do with it. He was even a bachelor. He became the head of state before he got married to Victoria. All right? The HSP was governor of Rivers State. He was only 27 as a naval officer. I can go on and on and on and on. Young people. And we need to, after all, we say that the young shall grow. How can they grow when you are stifling them? It's a contradiction now. It's a contradiction. Whereas some of these people who are putting up these bad policies, their children are not quite up to 18. They send them to universities abroad. Yes. Highbrow universities. But when it comes to the poor man, a poor man who has very bright children, you want to stop his children from going to the university. And you waste all his time, you waste all his mental energy. Doesn't make sense at all. And I'm happy that a lot of very eminent Nigerians, they're against this. They're against this policy. If they are good enough at 17 to write WAEC, why can they not be good enough to go into the university?
Well. As usual, the game changer, Providence Television. We're going to have someone in the studio. I'm not going to promise, I'm not going to tell you the day, but just look forward to it. We're going to have an academician and some other stakeholders, as the case may be, to discuss this issue as regards age limit. As regards the age limit to gaining admission in the university. On this note, we have come to the end of the newspaper analysis segment. Don't go away. The morning drive continues in just a moment.